And welcome inside the Backstage Pass. It is the last show of the week, too. We've saved the best for last here on the show, presented by our friends over at Bangtail Whiskey. Drink with them up there at CMA Fest, the 50th annual CMA Fest, presented by our friends at Bangtail Whiskey. They're out there in Live Oak, Total Wine, and Specs, and anywhere you can find liquor. And, of course, invading the Texas market soon. Check them out at bangtail.com or easyliquor.com. And our friends at Honky Tonk Texas in Silsbee, honkytonktexas.us for the current website for the list of shows out there too. Been looking forward to this one for quite some time. He's a guy that needs no introduction, but I'm gonna give it to him anyway because he's got a great album out there too as well. That's doing real well across all platforms, and everything's gonna be all right. I have to remind myself of that every day we get up in the morning. Sammy Sadler to the Backstage Pass. Sammy, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, Brandon. How you doing, bud?
It's doing good. It's CMA Fest week. We've had some good shows here, and even though I can't be in Nashville, I'm like, you know what? We're just going to keep doing what we do here and putting out great shows such as this. Well, I tell you what, as my listeners knew you were coming on this week, I said I love the history of country music, and man, for yourself, I love how it's the infamous murder on Music Row, I should say, the sole survivor, Sammy Sadler. Tell me how. I know all this probably definitely caught you by surprise, and I'm sure even today, this is a story that, again, go down in the history of country music too, but you're a part of this.
You know, Brandon, as I look back on my life, man, I mean, to go through something like that and something like that happened to you and you look back on that and you survive something. I mean, I never thought in a million years that I'd ever be shot or anything like that could happen to you. I always thought that was stuff you see on the movies, but, man, it's real life stuff. And, I just happened to be shot, left for dead 1989 on Music Row. My friend Kevin Hughes, that was a chart manager for Cashbox magazine, which was a rivalry to Billboard magazine. He was a chart manager where the top 100 records move on the charts. And him and I were together one night, and he was shot and murdered, and I was shot and left for dead. And it went around the world as a murder on Music Row.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like I said, you don't want to necessarily be a part of that history, but it did happen too, and it definitely, like you said, it changed the landscape there because I guess of a grudge. Kind of go through that story because I know that there's different, I don't say versions of it too, but depending on where you read it and where you get your information from on the internet. I'm always about facts and not fiction when it comes down to telling the story. Tell people a little bit about just, again, you still have that bullet in your arm, and I'm sure that even today, it's still got to be just nerve-wracking. And you're right, something like this just would never happen.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, man, I never thought that anything like that could happen to you. And, it took them 13 and a half years to solve this crime. And, even I was even considered a suspect in this thing, man. And how that can happen, I have no idea. I mean, I've got a bullet in my arm, had 100 staples down my arm, and 2 major operations. And I mean, I was lucky to survive and come through this myself, and how they could have done me and treated me like that and think that I'd have something to do with it still hurts me today, even 34 years later, to think that somebody would suggest or have any kind of inclination that I'd have something to do with something like that. And just like you said, man, let's stay to the facts. And the facts about this is, Kevin and I was a 21-year-old kid back then. Kevin was 24 years old. And we both came to Nashville with dreams, me as a singer and an entertainer. Kevin had other dreams of, wanting to know how the charts were. He was infatuated with charts and people's records and how they, were put together, how they went up the charts. So he was into all that. And as far as I can say or know, he may have thought he had his dream job being a chart manager at Cashbox magazine. And that's what he was into. And to 13 and a half years pass, and then you find out that this was a paid hit. This was, a scandal in country music, one of the biggest scandals in black eyes in country music. And, he's murdered and killed, and I'm left for dead. And, it all turns out to be about payola and a scandal where record promoters were trying to pay him underneath the table to move records up the charts and pay him money. And he was an honest man. He wouldn't do it. He wouldn't take their money, and they shot and killed him over it.
Crazy enough, I tell you that. And going through something like this, as tragic as this was too, and definitely rocking the boat there. Talk about how hard it was to the fight, the continuance of this, knowing how hard music is in general in the first place, the grind that it is too. But to reboot your career, 2004, you had Heart on a Heart, and you put out some really cool music there and kind of kept it going there with Heart Shaped Like Texas, which is another album there too. How hard was it to reboot Sammy Sadler and reboot your career after this tragic incident?
Well, that night that all this happened, they said everything happened within 7 seconds. And that 7 seconds took me 2 years to get back up on my feet. It was about, I think, the middle of 91 or going on somewhere in there that I ended up, finally, I had to go through 2 major operations after that to repair the artery the night that I was shot. I didn't know I was bleeding to death, but it severed the main artery in my arm. They had to take an artery out of my leg and graft into my arm. If that hadn't took, they'd had to cut my arm off. And then 6 months later, I had to endure another operation to graft a nerve that had been blown and severed apart. And so at the time, Al Gore was the senator of Tennessee, and I had a friend that worked at Metro Nashville, and Al's son had gotten run over at a baseball game, a Baltimore Orioles baseball game or something, and had some nerve damage. And she had come in and said, "Man, you need to call Al Gore." And she just kept on about it, man. And I said, "Mitzi, I'm not going to call Al Gore, yada, yada, yada." And one day she walked in, Brandon, she had Al Gore's number and gave it to me. And so I just called it, just kind of shut her up to get her off of me about it. And I called the number, and Al's secretary answered the phone. I started telling her about me, and she goes, "Hang on just a minute." And so Al come on the phone, and I started telling him, he said, "Sammy, you don't have to tell me. I know all about it. I've seen it on the news." And to make a long story short, he called the surgeon that operated on his son down in New Orleans, and they didn't take out-of-state patients, but Mr. Gore called him and told him about me. And he called me back in 15 minutes and said, the door's open. All you got to do is go down there and have the surgery done. And so I'll be forever thankful for him for being able to do that for me, and me being able to get that second operation. So we had all of that done, and I went back out on the road and put everything back together. I didn't try to get any more record deals. I just went out and tried to tour and play music and do what I love to do. And I did that for about 7.5 to 8 years, and the grind on me took a toll on me, and still having to wonder who did this to us? What is this all about? Is somebody still trying to kill me? It took a toll on me, and I had to step away from music for a while, and I come off the road and took a break from it. And they finally solved the crime in 2003 and convicted the man that pulled the trigger and put him in prison. And so that gave us a little bit of closure and relief to all of it for our families and for myself. And then I ended up coming back into the music business. Recorded the album Heart on a Heart that you had mentioned. We put that out, and it did pretty well for us. But, Brandon, I mean, it's been a struggle for me ever since the murder on Music Row happened, because of the way the police investigated it, the way they treated it, the way they ended up treating me as a suspect. I feel like that they put a cloud over me. The police put a cloud over me that, I was like damaged goods or something, and, I had no idea how the music business worked. Kevin and I didn't talk about the music business and discuss what was going on. So I had no clue of anything that was going on with him or his job, or if he was under any kind of pressure or any of that kind of stuff. We didn't discuss any of that stuff. We was just friends and became friends for about 7 or 8 months there. And so, I didn't create how the music business works. Kevin Hughes didn't create how the music business works and how they do business and how careers are made, and with money and politics. And we're just there, just like I am today. I'm still here, and I'm thank God that I'm still here, and I'm still out here pursuing a career that I started so long ago. I'm just like everybody else. I'm here to pursue my music career and to sing and entertain people. I'm not here to badmouth Nashville. I've got a lot of friends in Nashville, but I didn't create how the music business works. I'm just trying to be a a part of it. I went there to try to be a part of it and make my mark, but it looks like Nashville has made its mark on me. And, I don't hate Nashville. I don't have any animosity to it. I'm thankful that the police stayed on this and eventually solved this crime, but I'm not happy about the way that they treated me, what they put me and my family through. I took a lie detector test for them, passed it. They took me to Vanderbilt Hospital and had a professor over there hypnotize me. They were sitting right behind me whenever they did that. And whenever he did whatever he did and brought me out of whatever I was in, they stood up and said, "Man, was he really hypnotized?" And he goes, "Well, absolutely he was." And I mean, they didn't even believe that. And they're sitting right behind me. And, man, it's just been a very hard and traumatic experience for me, but God has brought me through it. He sustained me through it. And he knows the truth. I know the truth. And all I'm trying to do with my book, A Hit with a Bullet, The Real Murder on Music Row, is I'm just trying to tell the story through my eyes of what I've lived through and what I've come through.
Yeah, and I tell you what, I just in that book, I would ask people. It's a great read. I can't wait to get a copy of that. Just read that and tell it through your eyes too, as well. And definitely, and like you said, a lot of friends in Nashville. It's such a great city there too, and very unfortunate you had to go through something like this too. And like you said too, trying to be a part of a community, accepted into it, and just chase that dream to be a great musician out there too. At the same time, I love that, and that's a big thing there too. Well, tell us all about this latest single. Everything's going to be all right. It came out February 10th. Of this year, doing real well out there on the charts too as well. Tell us all how it got started, and definitely these are words we can definitely say to our significant others and to everybody in life.
I fell in love with this song when I heard it, and I heard it a long time ago. It's a Steve Wariner and Bill Labonte song, and Steve had it on an album many, many years ago. And as you and I well know, there's a lot of songs on albums that get overlooked because the record labels, they only pick 2 or 3 songs or a couple songs that they want to release. You don't have any control over what you really release. It's at the mercy of the record companies. And I love this song. I fell in love with it a long time ago. I think it's a great song. I think it's a positive message. It's an uplifting song. And, that's what the world needs right now. We're going through hard times out here, and this country's in bad shape. And but we're still the greatest country in America. We still live in the greatest country in America. And if we just all come together, everything's going to be all right, man. That's the way I feel about it. That's the way I feel about my life. God, I look back and he's had his hand on me, and I know he's had his hand on my life. And I'm just thankful to still be here. And I feel like everything's going to be all right in the end.
No doubt about it too. And like you said, tough times we're going through right now, the change, and definitely one thing I never do is talk politics on this show too, but it's a great music like the 90s country that I always will stick around to because I listen a lot to my good friend T. Graham Brown. He does a show Livewire on channel 58 Prime Country. Love listening to that. And of course, all the T.G. Shepherd, all the great shows out there too that they put on too. And it's music like you've done on your 1989 album, where I'm going with this too, because you had Shenandoah at the Church on Cumberland Road and the Bluest Eyes in Texas from Restless Heart, and so many cool things on there that you got to put a spin on. Tell me all about 1989, and actually T. Graham Brown was featured on that record in that song Darlene.
Yeah, T and I have crossed paths through the music business over the years and done some shows together. And, I just went back to that era of 1989, Brandon, because I think that the 80s and 90s country music, I believe, is some of the best country music that was ever made and produced. And I just went back to that era. I had cut the old Aaron Neville song, Tell It Like It Is, and that was my record at the time of the shooting. We had that out on the charts, and that was my fastest rising single, and they were rushing me in to start working on my album when all of that happened. And my record was on Billboard and Cashbox and all the charts, and it was my fastest rising single at the time whenever we had that record out and the shooting happened. And that night, obviously my career came to a halt. Billy Joe Royal ended up cutting the same song, naming his album Tell It Like It Is, and it still remains the biggest record of Billy Joe's career right now. And so I went back to that era of when all this happened to me and when my career came to a halt that night, went back in and recut Tell It Like It Is. And I think I've got a great cut on this record with it. And I picked out songs from that era that I really loved. It didn't take me about 15 minutes to pick out this album worth of material, and I picked it out, and we brought in T. Graham to sing Darlene, and Marty to sing Church on the Cumberland Road, and Larry come in and sang Bluest Eyes in Texas with us. And just what a honor and a humbling experience to have those guys who had the hits, who had the original hits, come in and sing with me on it. Just a humbling experience for them, and have iconic voices on that record with me. And I appreciate those guys for doing that with me.
Great guys. Marty Raven, good friend of mine, good friend of the shows. T. Graham Brown, love those guys. Larry Stewart, Restless Heart. Songs, man, just songs live in infamy for many, many years. And
Yes.
that classic country age. And I think there's a thirst for it. We'll take a quick time out because I love the conversation here with Sammy Sadler on the Backstage Pass, powered by the Sports Guys podcast.com and presented by our friends at Bangtail Whiskey and Honky Tonk Texas too as well. CMA Fest Week. Guys, make sure you get the CMA Connect app out there and go line up your favorite artist. Love and Theft was on with us this week and a whole lot more. So if you missed any of those shows, you can catch them on our internet station, hightidecountry.net, and at the very website I mentioned there too. More with Sammy Sadler. I want to talk a lot about the Doug Stone Tour in 2012. And, of course, 15-16, Ken Mellons, the late, great Jeff Carson too. That Taking the Country Back Tour. We'll come back and talk about that. More with Sammy Sadler here. It is the Backstage Pass powered by the SportsGuysPodcast.com. Stay tuned.
The Bangtail pour is comprised of a sweet corn mash base. The front has a subtle sweetness and not too sharp. It has notes of a medium char or white oak for a smoky flavor in the middle, and the tail has a super smooth and warm finish.
Go behind the scenes with some of the biggest artists in music today with the Backstage Pass, powered by the SportsGuysPodcast.com. Join Brandon Morrill and his co-host Kirsty Krause as they talk to rising stars and legends about their music careers. Listen to their latest tracks and learn fun facts about the men and women behind the music you love. And be sure to tune into the Backstage Pass Monday through Friday from 3:30 to 6:30, powered by the SportsGuysPodcast.com. And welcome into the Backstage Pass. And back here on the show again, Sammy Sadler. It is the Backstage Pass. I was looking at some T-shirts I got in the mail too. This is always cool, Sammy, when you get stuff in the mail. And it's like a tie-dye T-shirt. I don't wear these too much, but this one of my favorite artists, Alyssa Michaela, had given this little tie-dye T-shirt out there.
Awesome, man.
Says, let it do what it do.
Let it do what it do.
With the graphic behind me too, but she's put out a great record there. Make sure you guys check it out, called The Hard Way, across all the digital platforms. Great Texas artists out there too, Alyssa Michaela. And definitely she's got the tie-dye shirts on sale there too as well, because somebody was putting them in my face as I went to break there too at the same time. Hey, I want to go back to 2012 because a chance to talk to the great Doug Stone here on the program. And my God, hit after hit after hit back in the days. A big tour right there for Doug in 2012. And the other one, I believe, was 15-16 with the late, great Jeff Carson and, of course, Ken Mellons out there taking the country back tour. And I was so fortunate enough to get to talk to Jeff and do an interview with him before he had passed, and God rest his soul too as well out there. One of the best in country music. Talk about those tours and just how much, momentum you gained behind that too, especially again, coming back from such this tragic event and guys like that to uplift you and bring you on stage and just, again, continue that tradition of country music.
Well, I went and got with Doug and I met with him, and we ended up putting a show together and a tour together that we ran called the Real Country Music Tour all through 2012. And we went out and had some fun and done that. And then off of that, I ended up going to, they invited me to London to play the British Country Music Awards in 2013. So they flew me over there and we did that. It's kind of like the CMA Awards here in the United States, but it was over in London. So I went over there and done that. And then I came back and then in 2015, 16, and 17, me and Ken Mellons, the Jukebox Junkie, him and I got together and put a tour together called Taking the Country Back. And we worked together for about 3 years there and had Jeff Carson on the tour with us. And what a sweet guy Jeff was. And man, just it's so sad to have heard that, he had a heart attack and passed away. Nobody saw that coming at all.
It is. And I still go back and watch that show, man. It gives me tears. And just to hear Jeff sing on there and honestly, to even have the privilege to even have that footage, man, it caught people by surprise, but I was so fortunate enough to have that memory now because I get to pass things like that down to my daughter and she can see stuff like that with just music history. I want to ask you about the single Louisiana Rain. I think it came out May of last year too, which was really cool. I love that one. And we talked about Everything's Going to Be All Right. But Louisiana Rain, wanted to get the backstory of that one and kind of where that came from.
Well, that's a song that I also heard a long time ago, and I don't remember who played me that song, but Roger Murrah and Rich Alves, which was the lead singer of Pirates of Mississippi. They wrote that song, and when I heard it, I just loved that song. It's got a great hook to it, and it's got a good feel to that as well. And that was the first single that we released to Texas, and it went, I think, to number 45 on the charts for me. And then Everything's Going to Be All Right is the follow-up single to that. Everything's Going to Be All Right is also going to be the title of the album whenever we get ready to release the album. I don't know if that's going to be here in 2023 or it's going to be in 2024. But, like you were talking earlier, Brandon, I mean, I'm kind of the 90s country music feel, and that's the kind of music that I do, and that's kind of who I am. And this new album has got a lot of that on it, and I'm really excited about it. I think it's got some great material on it, and we've got a song on there that's got me and Jeff and Ken and John Anderson on a cut with it.
I got to click on to hear that one too, no doubt, especially those guys. Country music royalty right there. Hey, let's go back to the Heart Shaped Like Texas record too that I've been listening to for a few years now. Loved one on there because I love it, and I'm always thinking about it. And the one I'm talking about is thinking about Mexico, which is something like we always do when it comes down to it, especially this time of year when you're loving beaches and things like that. And just painting a picture is what you do. Great storyteller in your song. Tell us about Thinking About Mexico.
Well, Thinking About Mexico, like you mentioned, is on my Heart Shaped Like Texas album. And, it's kind of crazy. My recording career has been a roller coaster ride as well, because since, the Murder on Music Row, I've had three different record deals. And every time we've gotten the record deal, got the albums done, got the first single out, the labels have sold out to other companies. And it's been 6, 8, 12 weeks, 2 months down the road. They put a for sale sign in the front yard and close the Nashville country divisions down. And that Heart Shaped Like Texas album that you're talking about was on E1 Entertainment, and they bought out Koch Records and for like $81 million. And 2 months later, they put a for sale sign in the yard, and we all lost our record deal. Me and Daryl Singletary and Cletus T. Judd and Deborah Allen, all of us were over there, and it's kind of left my music unheard. But that album, Heart Shaped Like Texas, I feel like it's got some great music on it and got some great songs on it. And the Thinking About Mexico song you're talking about, Tony Ramey and Bart Butler wrote that song. And, those guys have written a lot of great songs. And, Tony's wrote a ton of songs for George Strait and other people, and Bart Butler as well. And now Bart is producing John Party and a bunch of people. And so that's where we got that song, and that's how it come about.
Love it too. There's another one on there too. I love that you got to feature, I believe Steve Warner was on there with you. I'll Always Have Denver, which was on that record too. Again, this is all available for download out there too, for people can check it out if they haven't already too, or maybe you haven't, you just want to play it again like I do, because I love listening to different albums out there too. I'll Always Have Denver, and of course, one of the greats, Steve Warner, to work with, no doubt.
Yeah, Steve and Bill Anderson wrote this song, and man, it's just a great song. And Steve was gracious enough to come in and sing background on the record with me, and that was the lead off single at the label, and we were in the 40s with it whenever they shut down. And there it is. It died right then. But man, just what a great song. And Steve's not only is Steve a great writer, he's a great producer. He's a painter. He's just an all around talent, man. And thankful enough to have been able to do some shows with him, and him being gracious enough to come in and work with us on this album.
I love it too. And I'll tell you what, like you said, A Hit with a Bullet is the book release out there. Tell people, I know, is Amazon a place where they can go get it?
It is. And if you don't mind, I'll show a copy of it if you don't mind.
Go for it. No
Here
problem.
is the copy of it right here. It's called A Hit with a Bullet, The Real Murder on Music Row, and it's available. If they want to get a copy of that on my website, I'll autograph the copy. If they get it on my website, they can go to Amazon. And if you're not a real big book reader and you want to listen to it, it's up on all of the Audible levels. So go and download it, and you can listen to it there. It's on there now.
Love it too, and hopefully, like I said, get a copy of that, because my downtime I love to read, and got a little bit of that too as well during the week. So I'd love to just to hear it from your perspective, and definitely a piece of history that goes down in music. Unfortunate it did, but there it is right there, told firsthand from you. And I love, like you said, facts instead of like you said, fiction. And I love hearing your story of it too, because your story is what I'm going to definitely believe out there too. There was another one off that record too, and this one was more of the scripture and thing like this, but I'm always a faithful person, grew up Catholic, but I went to all different denominations of churches out there. John 3:16 off that Heart Shaped Like Texas record. Let's talk about John 3:16, where it came from.
Well, let's see. John 3:16, Doug DeForest wrote that song, and Doug ended up producing that song on me, and he wrote the song. And I got with Doug, and he told me the story. He said, man, I wrote that song in 15 minutes. When I was driving one night, it was raining real bad, and he told me how it came together. And man, when he played it for me, I just loved the song. And John 3:16, was on the album. And I've got a couple other things on there that are kind of gospel flavored on there. If this ain't heaven, it's the same zip code. And then I co-wrote Thank God on there with some buddies of mine, Jerry Cupid and Jimmy Carr. We wrote that song, and that song there came to us instantly too. So God definitely had a hand in us doing those songs.
Yeah, and one on there too that takes me back even to my youth. Even with that, I mean, just back in the day, my brother and I were just talking about yesterday how much we, miss our grandma, and we lost her unfortunately in 2019. But it makes you think when you paint a picture with it. That old gravel road, and that's what she had when growing up there in the country, which we grew up on about 40 acres of land in Texas down here too. I want to know the backstory, everything about that old gravel road.
That old gravel road is another Roger Murrah song, and Roger wrote Chattahoochee and major hits. And when I heard that song, I fell in love with it. Man, I'm an old country boy, and I was born in Memphis, but I've been raised in Texas since I've been about 2.5 years old. And I live out here on 56 acres. We got a gravel road, and whenever we cut that song and sent it out to radio, I went out and come up with a little thing that we got these little sacks of I can't remember what it's called now, but they were just little cloths that we cut out, and I actually went out and handpicked gravel off my old gravel road and put it in the sack, sent it out to radio, and I think everybody got a good kick out of that. And that was a top 15 record for me out in Texas, and just love the song, man. I mean, that's who I am. So if you're a country, you know what I'm talking about. If you're a country boy.
Used to ride down it every day, 4-wheel down it, walk down it, just pick them up, throw rocks. And that was,
absolutely.
We were talking about that too, because I told my brother you were coming on, and I said you got to go check out Heart Shaped Like Texas and that particular song on that record. So it's funny how stories come about too, and it makes you think about your lost loved ones, and of course grandma, grandpas, aunt, uncles.
Yeah.
I mean, just if you grew up in that type of environment, Sammy, it just really makes you feel a part of it too as well. I love it. I got to check out your music video that you guys had done with the church on Cumberland Road too. I believe it was 2021 to it. Talk about it. I see more and more people now who may have been hesitant to do it. I know cost has a lot to do with it. Hesitant to do music videos in the past. You're seeing people take like just a really special song, such as that one, or something they wrote or whatever. I'm seeing more music videos come out now, kind of after the pandemic. I'm not surprised. Are you?
No, not really. I think we did the acoustic video to the church on Cumberland Road. I think that's the one you're talking about.
Yeah, that's it.
And we did. We went in there and did that one, and we also did another one. I Can't Get Close Enough that Exile did, and I Should Be With You, another Steve Wariner song that Steve wrote. Is one of my favorite songs by Steve.
I love it too. No, it's so great out there too, and so much history of it. And like I said, I'm glad you were able to give back and do these duets and have fun with these legends, because like I said, these tunes will live on and on. We got to take our final time out. We're going to come back, have a little fun with Sammy, and definitely you guys make sure you go grab the book. And of course, the music is available for streaming out there too here on the Backstage Pass. You can check us out at hightidecountry.net, internet radio out of Oklahoma. My good buddy Buster does a great job there. We're at 3 times a day, 4 times a week on that. If you ever missed a show, and of course at the sportsguyspodcast.com. A word from our friends at Bangtail Whiskey. Happy CMA Fest to everybody out there. And also thanks to our friends at Honky Tonk Texas. More with Sammy Sadler, the final segment coming up here on the Backstage Pass. Hang tight.
The Bangtail pour is comprised of a sweet corn mash base. The front has a subtle sweetness and not too sharp. It It has notes of a medium char or white oak for a smoky flavor in the middle, and the tail has a super smooth and warm finish.
Go behind the scenes with some of the biggest artists in music today with the Backstage Pass, powered by the SportsGuysPodcast.com. Join Brandon Morrill and his co-host Kirsty Krause as they talk to rising stars and legends about their music careers. Listen to their latest tracks and learn fun facts about the men and women behind the music you love. And be sure to tune into the Backstage Pass Monday through Friday from 3:30 to 6:30, powered by the SportsGuysPodcast.com. And welcome into the Backstage Pass. And next week, we'll talk a little baseball. If you're a Texas Ranger fan, CJ Nitkowski, MLB Network Radio, Texas Ranger broadcaster. He'll be on to talk some Rangers and slumping Astros right now. But we'll do that with our sports show next week. Weekly visit with CJ. And, of course, some more great shows. Becca Bowen and a whole lot more. Cassie Joy and a whole lot more coming up here on the Backstage Pass. If you ever miss a show, catch us at hightidecountry.net. And, of course, our friends at the SportsGuysPodcast.com, powered by that, and presented by Bangtail Whiskey and Honky Tonk Texas. Back here with Sammy Sadler on the show, final segment here too. So make sure you guys go stream. Everything's going to be all right across all the digital platforms, and of course the book, A Hit with a Bullet, Amazon, across all the different things out there. SammySadler.com, autographed copy. Make sure you guys get all that stuff out there. I want to read the book. I cannot wait to get my hands on this book and hear the story, Murder on Music Row, from your perspective on how it is. All right, let me ask you this. In the downtime that Sammy has, when you're not making music, an old segment called Rapid Fire here, what does Sammy like to do for fun?
Well, man, I work a lot, Brandon. My dad's had a construction business in our family, and so I work with that. He's 85 years old now, and his health's not doing well as it used to be, and so he's kind of come to a standstill in his life, but he's still with me, and I thank God for that. But I kind of oversee that and go out and check on that. And, man, I like to travel and get away to little towns, and just go down and kind of check out the history of some small towns. And, there's a lot of history in Hot Springs, Arkansas. And I like to go in those little towns and just kind of visit and see what's, there and what kind of history's in some of these towns,
Now, these towns, I'm going to have a food question here for you because everybody, we all like to eat, no doubt about it, too. So these
towns, don't even talk about food.
Barbecue, what is it? What's the Sammy Sadler favorite food out there in these little towns?
Man, if you could see, I don't know, man. I mean, if you could see me, I need to lose some weight because I've been eating too much here the last 6 or 8 months.
For me too.
Man, I love steak and barbecue and seafood. Man, I just love all kinds of food.
It's so good out there too, especially going to West. I'm going this weekend, San Antonio, Mexican food in West Texas out there. Barbecue, it's bad, no doubt about it too. As far as coffee drinker, what's your brand? You love coffee?
I do. I mean, I like to go to Starbucks, and I don't need to be doing it, but man, I love coffee. And are you a big coffee drinker?
It's bad. It's like a Folgers / Dunkin' Donuts, and I'm bad on the coffee of that, but it's good. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, I got to have a cup every morning.
Me too. One cup. If I miss a day, it's like, oh my God, the world broke down. But I just have to have at least the one cup. At least I'll say this: 5 days a week on the day gig when I got to get up at 5:30 in the morning. There's always that Folgers or something waiting in the kitchen. If not, I tell you, it's not bad. I don't like it to say the least. I guess it'd be if I had to have a cup, I'd go get it. But if it was the last cup of coffee on earth, I'd just have to go with a Coke or something. 7-Eleven coffee's not bad. You gotta
not bad. I've one time I stopped in 7-Eleven. They had some coffee in there. It was like a coconut coffee, and I tried it and I liked it. Then I went back in there like a month later and they quit carrying it. I don't know. Do you ever notice like you find something and they really serve it and it's popular, they get rid of it? It's kind of like television shows, they get you hooked on something and then they take it away from you.
Yeah, and the flavor you made me think of now, I walked in the other day to grab a cup, and it was the exclusive brand was on the left side, and on the right side they had a pecan flavored. Now too. Got. I'm in between. I'm still going to go with the original type of stuff out there too, no doubt.
There you go.
Last favorite show to binge watch? What'd you get into? What series?
Man, I watched Yellowstone, and now I'm watching Manifest.
Okay, I hadn't seen Manifest. That's I gotta get it.
Yeah, you need to check it out. It's pretty good.
Is that on Netflix or is that Amazon?
I think it's on Netflix.
Okay, I need to check out Manifest. Write that down too.
Yeah, Manifest. Check it out, man. I started watching it now. I can't get off of it.
That's a good one, no doubt about it. Now, when it comes to, let's say it's Sammy Sadler, and I think about this all the time because everybody's like, when you win the lottery, I'm like, yeah, better chance to be struck by lightning. But when it comes to, hopefully, we'll get struck by lightning. I hope not. But if you won the lottery tomorrow, say Powerball, Mega Millions, one of the big dogs out there, what's the first thing you do with the money if Sammy won the lottery?
That's a good question. I'd probably take a long due vacation, and then I'd probably try to find some kind of organization to help somebody, and then put some of it back and just try to take the rest of it easy.
I love it. Well, it's always good to help out, like you said, nonprofit and definitely organization needs the help. You see athletes do it all the time with the millions of dollars they make too. It's always good to give back and be involved in your community and help out those less fortunate than yourself too. As far as a dream, I guess you could say I'm gonna kind of go old school here too. If Sammy wasn't a musician, would it be the construction business? What is the career?
Well, Brandon, before 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 I went into music, I was a baseball player, and
Oh,
I had to make a choice. That's one of the things in my life, in my music career. I look back, I had to make a choice whether I was going to be a baseball player or I was going to pursue music. And
mhm.
I had some people looking at me when I was a sophomore in school. I had some colleges looking at me, and uh, I got bit by the music bug, and my parents. I said, what do you think I should do? And they said, whatever you choose to do, we're going to support you. And they have always done that for me. And I ended up choosing music and choosing that life. And unfortunately, the murder on Music Row happened to me. But
Mhm.
man, I would have been a baseball player, I guess, if I hadn't chose music.
Like I said, my dad was close to getting drafted by some different organizations. He was looked at as a pitcher too back in the day, so he always wonders about that too at the same time. And he had a scout tell him one time too. He threw in the upper 90s or low 90s in high school, and he said, "I guess if you hadn't taken that path, I would have signed you." And he got a scout to tell him that back in the day. It was the Astros, one of the teams they used to scout
Wow.
for, and he
Well, I had
always
a
got
buddy of
that.
mine. I had a
Mhm.
buddy of mine that kind of coached me, and he's a little bit older than I was, but he ended up trying out for the Cincinnati Reds, and they ended up telling him, said, "You're 2 seconds too slow.
Oh,
2 seconds too slow."
2 seconds.
Yeah, man, I never could wrap my head around it. I mean, 2 seconds cost him a
Wow.
career.
That's crazy how that just
Crazy.
a whirlwind. It is crazy, no doubt about it too. All right, let's do this one. I love having fun. Favorite cartoon growing up? What'd you enjoy watching?
Favorite cartoon? Oh my gosh, probably the Roadrunner.
Yeah, that's always a
Yeah,
good one. Wile E. Coyote and
Wile E.
Roadrunner too.
Coyote.
All the
Yeah,
Looney Tunes out there too at the same time.
yeah.
Favorite toppings on pizza? What does Sammy enjoy on a pizza pie?
Man, I like pepperoni and Italian sausage and mushroom and bell peppers and onions.
There's a
Pretty
amazing.
close to supreme.
Pretty close to supreme. I'll tell you what. Hey, man, the story lives on. Like I said, we have to hear it from your perspective, which is great out there. Unfortunate it happened, but can't wait to hit with a bullet. The book out there. Make sure you guys go grab a copy of that. Visit SammySadler.com, get one autographed, and of course, check out the latest single. Everything's going to be all right, and there's a whole lot more you guys are looking forward to. I know for this year and some new music and 2023. I hope it continues to bless you, my friend. And hey, thanks for being a part of what we got going on here, buddy.
Brandon, I appreciate you having me on. Thank you for sharing my music, my story, and thank you for having us and supporting and doing what you do. And we're trying to get everything put back together to get back out on the road. And I'm working on some things. And man, it's been stuff's crazy, man. I've about had some things put together, and then they shift around, and so we're trying to put another tour together with some 80s, 90s country acts
Mm.
from that era. So keep an eye out. As soon as we get some things locked down, we're going to be back out. We're going to be bringing one of those shows back out on the road, and hopefully the people will come out and see it because, again, man, there's some great artists out there. Just because you're not 22 or 23 or
Mhm.
13 years old doesn't mean that we don't have anything to contribute to music. And I still think we've got a lot of fuel in us. And some of the other guys out here that are being overlooked at radio just because we're not, young and in our 20s anymore doesn't mean that we still don't love to do what we love to do and come to see the folks. And I hope they'll come out and see us and say hello to us when we get back out there.
Well, I hope I'll be one of the first ones in line. So no doubt
I
about it.
appreciate you, man.
Getting Barry on the phone and saying, "Hey, listen, where's that stop at? What place in Texas? I'm going to
Yes,
Houston.
sir.
I'm going to Conroe."
Hey, we're gonna bring it everywhere. We're gonna try to bring it as many places as we can. And again, man, we'd love to see you. And if we can ever do anything for you or you in your community, please keep us in mind. We'd love to do it.
You got it. Not about the one, the only Sammy Sadler, Hit with a Bullet, is the book out there across the platforms. Make sure you guys get it. Like I said, Amazon and different places, and of course, SammySadler.com. And then the single, Everything's Gonna Be All Right. Getting ready for the new album. We talked a lot about 1989, and of course, Heart Shaped Like Texas. We'll see you guys next week. A whole slew of shows. I can't remember who's coming on. I know Becca Bowen's one of them, and then a whole lot more coming up next week too, as well, here on the Backstage Pass presented by Bangtail Whiskey and our friends over at Honky Tonk Texas. We'll see you guys then. Take care. Have a great weekend. Whatever you do, make sure you do it safe. We'll see you